Hey Rebels, my apologies for posting a video that's been pre-recorded for you instead of being live. I recorded this in the instance that I wouldn't be back and available at 2 o'clock today, and I did not want you to miss out on your lesson. Today is my youngest son. He has something called the Young Authors Day, and I get to go in and volunteer and help with that today. So I'm really excited. So if you're seeing this video, it's because I didn't make it back in time to be live. But please feel free to write comments on here and let me know how you're doing with stuff, and let me know if you have questions. I'm more than happy to answer them or to pop back in live again. And if you guys feel like we need a little more discussion about this. Okay, so let's talk about how balance is not an outcome. One of the most common things when it comes to balance that people will say to me, and I really notice this in the phrasing of their question, is what can I do to be better at balance? Or they'll tell me that they are really bad at keeping things balanced, and then they'll proceed to kind of shame themselves a little bit for not having perfect balance everywhere in their life. So I find myself correcting this a lot in people, and this is one of the reasons that I wanted this to be our topic for this month, because it feels really pertinent to what's going on with people, but also I feel like it flows from our previous topic of intuition in the body really nicely. So let's take a look at balance is not an outcome. Let's take a look at what it is then. Balance is something that is kind of a gauge for you, and it's a feeling that you experience. So similar to happiness, if you think about what is happiness, right? It's different for everybody, and it's not something that you can perfectly line all the things up in your life and do everything exactly right and perfect and get happiness. That's really not how happiness works. You also can't do stuff great one day and feel super happy and then expect that feeling without doing anything else to just keep on going for the rest of your life. You're going to get knocked out of that state sometimes, and you're going to have to get back into that state sometimes. And happiness is a great way to gauge like how you're feeling in other areas and what's going on, and intuition and ego balance. So if we look at the idea of balance and feeling balance and being in a state of balance, it's on that same idea in that you can't achieve it with the exact action steps that you used last year and expect to use that this year. It's not going to work. It's not going to fit anymore. You're going to have to find a different adjustment for your balance. But what I want you to do is to take it even further and ask yourself, why do I want to feel balanced? What does it feel like when I experience the state of balance, or when things feel balanced? What does that give me? Now, what people are usually seeking when they're telling me they need help with balance is what's usually happening is that they're feeling really stressed. Okay, now you guys have heard me say this before, but stress is the high achiever. So if you're somebody who likes to achieve like me, we like to say stress instead of fear. All right, but stress and fear are the same thing. It's just a way that achievers package being afraid. We call it stress because it makes us feel more significant, it makes us feel better. Okay, stress is just a tricky word for fear. So you're feeling afraid, and you're feeling like you're going through your day and you're not feeling powerful. Like you're sort of just responding to stuff instead of taking action and dealing. You're just kind of putting out fires all the time. There's stuff that you want to be achieving that you're not. You're missing things in certain areas. You don't feel powerful when you enter into different areas of your life. So if that's what's happening, that's when people are coming and saying, I need balance. Okay. Now, balance is something that is a gauge. All right, let me say that again. Balance is a gauge, not an outcome, not a destination. Balance is a gauge for how you're doing and how powerful you're feeling in other places of your life. Now, here's what it's not meant to do. Don't use this as a weapon against yourself. People do this all the time. It's a real cultural thing for us where if you just like have a week or two or a month or a year where a certain area of your life just feels out of balance, it feels out of whack, you're just not crushing it over there, don't use that as a weapon against yourself. All right, stop beating yourself up for that. It doesn't mean that you're lesser or that you're a bad person or that you suck at life or that you're a powerless fool. It doesn't mean any of those things. It just means that for some reason there's an amount of fear in that area that's preventing you from taking steps that will help you feel more powerful in that area. That's simply all it means. So when someone says to me like, oh my gosh, I have a great life, things are wonderful, I feel really out of balance in the area of my love life. Like that area is not thriving. I'd like that to be more, right? I know that the reason there isn't balance isn't because this person sucks at love or is cosmically doomed or is, you know, not as worthy as people who are succeeding at love. I know that's not the case. I know that there's some fear in that like arena for them that's making it hard for them to take the steps needed to bring balance to that, to bring awareness and attention and more focus on that area. Does that make sense? So fear plays this major role that when something feels out of balance, you want to sort of look at what's behind that. Like, what's the fear going on for you? All right. For me, around this time of year, I always start to like slip in balance because the kids are in their last 2 weeks of school. Like next Friday for me is their last day. And so we're transitioning from the school schedule to the summer schedule where I work longer hours on certain days, but I work less days. All right. And so because I just want to be home with them and I want to do things with them. And so in addition to that being a difficult transition, the last 2 weeks of school, for my kids at least, I don't know about for you guys, but they're hot messes. They are feeling the transition. They are so over school. They need the break. They're just done. They're just not feeling it. So they get out of whack, which also throws me out of whack because I'm trying to shift and adjust for what's going to be different. Okay. And so what happens is that in this time, every year, it's happening right now, certain things get out of balance. Okay. So I look and I go, what feels out of balance? So a couple days ago, the kids' school stuff, and I have a system for organizing that. I have like a little area and I have a place that I put papers, a marker board with their schedule, a place that I hang important stuff that I need to know, a place that I file upcoming things. I'm very organized and structured in most areas of my life, and this is one of them. However, this area had become overrun. I hadn't changed it to June. It still said May, okay? There were papers up that were done and passed. Like, I don't need that up. The date's gone by. I was close to missing stuff. Like, I felt really stressed when I went to like look at their homework and their projects and where we needed to be and when, because I hadn't been updating that. So I stopped and I said, well, whoa, why am I not doing that? What's the fear behind that? Why have I let that get ahead of me? And why haven't I stepped in and fixed that yet? Because it's been bothering me for like 5 days here. Like, what's happening here? I know that was because there was a fear related, okay? And when I tapped in and I looked, I noticed what it was. So last year at this time, in about 3 days this time last year, my youngest son broke his arm and had to have surgery on it. It was very traumatic for him. It was very difficult for us. He was in so much pain, and in between the break and the surgery, he wasn't sleeping and he was just in a lot of pain. He had metal bars put into his arm. Like, it was real legit serious. And the last 2 weeks of school, he missed last year. And I walked around like a zombie because I wasn't sleeping. I was worried about my kid. I was trying to work and I was trying to take care of him. You know, at the time we had just started the other coffee shop, so it was really difficult to balance all these things. And I was really like exhausted and I got really run down around that time. Now, luckily, I was able to get some support and get some help and get myself back after that happening. But there was a fear about this end of school time of year again, about that like stuff was going to get overwhelming again, that I wasn't going to be able to handle it all, that I was going to, you know, start sinking again and need to call in that support. And when I looked at that and I saw that, I was like, okay, you know, this was just chilling in your subconscious, torturing you, and you started to avoid the school stuff out of this fear that like focus in there was going to bring back all that trauma of that situation, right? So I looked at it and I said, you know what, if that happens, we can handle it. I see that fear. I know I'm a little uncomfortable now moving into that. I'm going to like journal about my fears and thoughts on that. I'm going to take some extra good care of myself. I'm going to take some extra good care of my kids. And I'm going to go and I'm going to organize it. And I set aside time in my schedule and I caught myself back up. It took me half an hour, and probably not even that much. I think it took me half an hour because I was dancing to Bon Jovi at the time while I was doing it. But it didn't take me long, and then I felt better. And then I continuously like give myself space and air and grace around this time of year, because last year was tough. You know, sometimes we don't realize that things that happened to us before, we get triggered again subconsciously. Like, your subconscious is picking up these cues that like, hey, last year at this time, or 10 years ago at this time, or 20 years, 30, 40, 50 years ago at this time, this was what was happening for you, and it was stressful, and your stress gets, and your fear gets triggered, sometimes without your conscious mind understanding why. So when stuff gets out of balance, you just got to do a little digging, and it's not always colossally big. Like, that wasn't huge and difficult to overcome. I did, right? So you want to look at that, and you want to lean into what's going on. Now, does that mean, because that part of life got a little out of balance, does that mean that my whole life is unbalanced and that I'm a hot mess? No. It doesn't. It just means that that's how it felt in that moment. And that out of balance was a gauge for me to look and to heal what had been going on behind the scenes, which was just like subconsciously, I had all this fear about what had happened last year at this time. Makes sense? Okay. Oh my gosh, it just started to pour rain as I said that. That's going to be some kind of sign, right? All right. So I want you to look at this stuff, and I want you to extend yourself that space. Extend yourself air, space, and grace. That's my thing, okay? So give yourself a little room. Like, oh, I've let this get out of balance. What's going on? One of the most common things that I let get out of balance is taking care of my accounting in my business, because I hate doing it. Like, looking at the money stuff bores me to tears. I don't enjoy it. I'm not super good at it. I'm not in my zone of genius when I'm doing it. And I have to like fire my accountant, and I'm really not excited about it. And I have to hire someone else. And because it's already a place I don't love, and now I got to go in and fire this person, which makes me feel terrible. They deserve it, but whatever. It makes me feel bad as an empath. I don't like that. I don't like that sort of thing going on. And then I have to sit down and find someone else at this time where I already feel like things are too busy. It's making me avoid it, right? So I know it. Air, space, grace. Okay, I know it needs to be done. I'm going to make sure I get it done, but I'm going to breathe about it. I'm going to give myself, a deadline, another couple weeks, and then we'll get to it once the kids are, back to school, and then I'll have to catch up. And I don't love that, but I'll fix the system to work better. I'll do what needs to be done. So that's what you want to look at. When things get out of balance, it doesn't mean that you're not balanced. It means that some area of your life needs more support. It's a beautiful gauge for realizing and figuring out that there's some piece of it that you've avoided, you've removed your energy from, or you're anticipating negative energy, so you're scooting away energetically, and it's creating that need for support. So same as if I told you to balance right now. I said stand up on your tippy toes, go all the way up and balance. And let's say your ankles started wobbling, right? If that was the case, it doesn't mean that you can't balance. It means that by balancing, what you've done is looked and said, oh, the area of my body that could use more support when I'm up on my tippy toes is my ankles. So I know that they need more support in my life anyway. So I'm going to do some things to strengthen that. And then you can use this month's meditation, right? And you can look at, what does that represent for me, my ankles? What does that mean? I know for me that ankles represent like moving in a direction for me. Whenever I have an issue with that, it's because I'm like getting nervous about moving in a certain direction. And I'm like, I think I'll go this way. And the universe is like, nice try, over here, sister. Which is definitely playing a part in my recent ankle injury. So if you can kind of understand that, and you can sort of look at that, and you can sort of see like, what is it about that I can support, instead of saying like, oh, I have shitty ankles, right? If you can say, oh, my ankles need more support, that's an area that needs more support, and then support it, then you're going to feel better. Because I mean, what are you going to do? Go around, bragging to everyone that you're an amazing balancer? Like, I mean, okay, but like, that's not great. Instead, balance and use that as a gauge to see what parts of your body need support, or maybe what things feel out of alignment. Okay, so take that in. I hope that helps. Thank you for letting me do this video this way. I appreciate it, but please post your comments, your questions, and all of that good stuff on here. And like I said, if you feel like there's need for more discussion, and there's a ton of questions on this, I will come back in live so that I can answer them that way for you. Okay, have a fantastic rest of your Thursday, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.